despite 15% tariffs levied on Nigeria's exports to the United States, Africa's most populous nation is still seeking to boost economic ties with America. Lagos played host to an economic delegation from California at an event co-organized by the commercial law firm George Etomi and Partners. Arise business correspondent Rosito Duri sent in this report.
Lagos State, on a cool Sunday evening, played host to a high-level networking event that united the state of California with top business executives and academia from Africa's most populous nation. The industry networking and dinner event was put together by George Etomi and Partners, a foremost commercial law firm with over 4 decades of experience delivering cutting-edge legal and regulatory solutions across sectors such as energy, infrastructure, fintech, telecommunications, aviation, and real estate. George Etomi and Partners organized the event in collaboration with the California Africa Climate and Economic Delegation, CACED. CACED is fostering cross-continental economic collaboration in government, banking and finance, clean energy, fintech, sustainable transportation, education, technology, consulting, port operations, construction, healthcare, entertainment, and more. The U.S. state of California is the largest subnational government on planet Earth. According to data from the International Monetary Fund and the United States Bureau of Economic Analysis, California's 2024 nominal GDP reached $4.1 trillion, surpassing Japan's 4.02 and placing California fourth only behind the United States, China, and Germany in global rankings. Technology and innovation is the crown jewel in California's economy, accounting for almost 20% of the state's GDP. The Silicon Valley hub plays host to the biggest companies in the world. The education pipeline that feeds Silicon Valley with the brightest minds comes from some of America's most prestigious universities in California, like Stanford University, University of California at Berkeley, and Caltech, the California Institute of Technology, and also the University of Los Angeles. California also has Hollywood, the most valuable film industry in the world, home to the biggest movie studios. California also has a massive agriculture industry and leads the United States in fruit, vegetable, and nut production, supplying large portions of national output for the United States. Then there's ports. The Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach form the largest port complex in North America, crucial for trade with other global regions. Arise News spoke with representatives from the California delegation and George Etomi and Partners.
It's been an exciting evening at George Etomi and Partners. Our California delegation of 40 people has been traveling the African continent over the last 9 days. We were in Kenya and Nairobi. Then we went to Addis Ababa. We've been in Abuja, Nigeria, to meet with the Nigerian government, the leadership government of President Tinubu. And now we're in Lagos. Look, the importance of this partnership is to see how we can further areas of mutual interest between Nigeria and California. You may ask why? Why Nigeria and California? Of course, Nigeria has the most robust economy on the African continent. That economy is growing. It grew by 3% last year. And also, California has the 4th largest economy in the world. And it's also the largest subnational government economy in the world. That is a state that is not a country. California is number 1. But we also have areas of similar challenge. For example, when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions in Nigeria, the number 1 culprit is the transportation sector. It pollutes the air more than anything else, transportation. In California, it also happens to be the same challenge. So how can we work together to advance things like public transportation, rail, buses, zero-emission vehicles, zero-emission two-wheelers, motorcycles, and three-wheelers in Nigeria, and also in California. In California, we've sold 2 million zero-emission vehicles. A lot of that is due to the leadership of Governor Gavin Newsom pushing the climate and environmental sustainability agenda. But there are other areas that we think we can also continue to partner on, like agriculture, innovation and technology, the creative market, university partnerships. We've also identified as important. So a great day, a great evening at George Etomi Partners, but this is just the beginning. We're just laying the foundation to create this long-term relationship that hopefully yields a lot of fruit in the relationship between Nigeria and California, America's largest economy.
The importance of this delegation and us being in Nigeria is that we want to build a relationship, California and Nigeria. We want to work together on addressing climate change. California, as big as it is in terms of its economy, cannot do it alone. We need partners all over the world. Nigeria is a vibrant culture, an extremely strong country, and we want to partner with Nigeria to address climate change. Well, I'll be humble. I'll say California is not perfect. We have not always been focused on renewables. We too have focused on fossil fuels in the past. So I think Nigeria can learn from California on how do you balance those. Sometimes we will need the fossil fuels. However, we should always be aiming to get more renewables. And the things that Nigeria is doing right now, the actions that it is taking, I think will enable more renewables to come online. And that is something that is to be commended. It is hard to do, it's not easy, but Nigeria is committed, setting ambitious goals, just like California. So I think that's where there's an opportunity for us to partner, to encourage each other, to support each other, to work together and to invest in each other's economies. What I have noticed is as California has invested more money into renewables and smart technologies, we've risen in terms of our economic rank. We've become fourth in the world, and we're only a state, but we're fourth in the globe. That means we've made smart investments. So I think Nigeria and California working together will be a smart investment as well, and we can go farther together.
I want to thank you, Arise News. There's no gainsaying that when you bring international set of people to Nigeria, we are focused on bringing investment to Nigeria. And we're happy, and you will see during the course of the evening, where we're going to talk about ease of doing business in Nigeria. We're going to talk about the tax reforms. We're going to talk about the deregulation that has taken place in the oil sector and the foreign exchange market. So now investors can bring in their money and they can take it out. The government also has simplified the tax regime. So we are trying to create awareness amongst foreigners so that they know that there's no problem investing in Nigeria. It's a recent experience that airlines stopped coming to Nigeria because they could not remit the fares out. Government has cleared that. I'm not a mouthpiece of government, but those are the result of the liberalization that has taken place. So we are very happy to welcome the California delegation. You know that the state of California is the fourth largest economy in the world, and they are looking for active engagement in Africa. Prior to coming to Nigeria, they've been to Kenya. So we are trying to bring the people in the industry together. They've been to Abuja, I was with them, and they met with the government people. I always told them that it would be a good idea to listen to the organized private sector.
You know, as you mentioned, California within the United States, the largest economy. If it was its own country, it would be the first largest economy in the world. Lagos State also has its own place in Africa as a large economy of its own. If you were to advise other states within Nigeria how to compete with Lagos and attract these large events, what would you tell them to do? Because Lagos continuously seems to be at the heart of all these big events that attract all these large foreign direct investors.
Again, from experience, what we've seen is that we all are aware of the geopolitical tensions now, and clearly it's one of the big three risks where you talk about CEOs and talking about hindrance to business, as it were. What we've noticed is that to overcome the business dynamics, the structures at the national level, just identify the opportunities, the big opportunities you have, and it's very easy to tap into any subnational across the world, especially where we have existing relationships. That's the way to go, whether it's agriculture, tap in your niche area and just make development across. It can be even within Africa. We've seen a lot of that happening within Africa, and that can really be a game changer. Once you have identify your opportunities, there are subnationals out there that are recognizing that they have to do this. Create the larger platform. Luckily, they are at the macro level. We're seeing the Minister of Trade, especially based on our background of ease of doing business, she's quite amenable to this. So let's hook in to the larger national setup and identify those opportunities, and then we're good to move. And the impact when we have 3 or 4 of those states doing that is going to even be more telling than getting a major transaction taking place at the national level.
Nigeria brought in $5.6 billion in capital importation in the first quarter of 2025, a 67% increase from 2024. But with only 2.2% of that figure, $126 million, in foreign direct investment, fostering stronger economic ties with powerhouses like California are going to be crucial. For Arise News, Rhoda Sodiri.
Well, this was a high-level delegation from California that was led by the Secretary of Transportation, Toks Omishakin, who visited Nigeria this August to begin talks about deepening cooperation between Africa's largest economy and America's most dynamic state economy. Now, why was this important? Investment and economic partnerships within technology, creative industries, financial services, real estate, and the likes. We know there were talks around climate and renewable energy collaboration. They had a meeting with the NCCC in Abuja as well to talk about climate smart agriculture as well, how we can utilize our carbon markets, methane reduction, plastic recycling as well. So there were a lot of things that they discussed, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to, yield further results for Nigerians at the end of the day. This is also meant to secure boosting investor confidence and make sure that there is more investment coming in and there is more value going out as well.
Definitely. I hope that Nigeria continues to focus on private sector-led initiatives. Again, credit should be given to Georgia Tomi and partners here. And I say this not just because, it was specifically for speaking about California. Our Minister of Communications, Bosu Tijani, in May of 2024, announced Nigeria Startup House in San Francisco, California, put 3 pictures, said that they're of him standing in front of the building, said that they're going to convert this property to help support Nigerian startups and Nigerian tech founders, and that's the last we've heard of it, right? And so that's why it's always important when we focus on private sector-led initiatives, because I feel that businessmen are more likely to see it through. And as you said, it's very important the areas that we said that we are collaborating on. Of course, California is very famous for Silicon Valley and the value that has provided California. We can also relate with our own Yabacorn Valley, right? Nigeria has the most unicorns in Africa. We have Andela, we have Flutterwave, we have Paystack, and this is coming out of innovation led by young people. And so tech investments is a very important area. I'm always wary of investments in clean energy. And I'm wary because there is an outsized burden on the global south when we're now in this climate change era that we should no longer use fossil fuels. We should no longer do things that are bad for the environment, which is absolutely true. However, the burden cannot be put on us. A lot of people in Lagos are very unlikely to be able to afford some of these electric vehicles and some of these expensive, things where we don't have light, first of all, before we start talking about going off grid. But it is important for us to engage in these conversations and to engage in these partnerships. Another area that California is very famous for, of course, is Hollywood, right? And Nigeria is very famous for our soft power is growing because we've been able to export our movies, our music, and our talent. And so these areas of investment and these areas of collaboration are incredibly important. And, and it's also a warning, I would say. California is a warning for us, because you do see extreme wealth in California, but you do see extreme poverty. And in Black and brown communities, around over 20%. Living in poverty in California. You have people living on the roads and on the streets near some of the richest areas in the world. And it's why I always speak out against this idea of trickle-down economics and this type of idea of trickle-down profit. Because ultimately, you have to have policies that are people-focused and put people first.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's important to understand that while absolutely correct, the private sector tends to see things through. But if we build structures on a faulty foundation, they will naturally crash. For instance, if we're building these structures, knowing fully well that we have electricity deficits in Nigeria, knowing fully well that we have an infrastructure deficit as well in Nigeria, it will not, we have a skill deficit as well in Nigeria. So I think it really just boils down to starting literally from the ground up. Some of the pillars that this Nigerian delegation underscored with regards to this meeting were some positive economic indicators. And then if we look at the reality of what this is being hinged on, stock market capitalization of over 90 trillion naira, oil production rising to 1.5 million barrels per day, and we're still battling to keep that at a stable rate to ensure that it further increases, stable reforms to improve ease of doing business. Is there an actual improvement on the ease of doing business if prices continue to increase or fluctuate with the state of inflation right now? Is there actually ease of doing business for the average Nigerian? We're talking about real estate. What is the reality of real estate in Nigeria? Are we about to invest in more real estate that Nigerians will be unable to afford? Because that is currently where we are right now. We are in a state where Nigerians cannot afford the average house to live in, whether you're living in Lekki in Lagos, Nigeria, or if you're going down to Ajah and the likes. Houses are becoming increasingly expensive. So the more investments are coming in, are we breaking down this investment to ensure that the average Nigeria can benefit from the dividends of this investment? Or is it still going to go into, again, it's an investment, the money has to return. So these are the issues that we really need to consider as we open up ourselves. You know, if we decide we want to build more infrastructure, even with the creative spaces as well, we still have an infrastructure deficit. Filming ideally should not be as costly, but the stress of finding locations and skill and equipment as well is the reason why a lot of times we find increasingly high budgets for the productions that are created. So these are issues that I'm hoping that as we bring in all of these investments, we tackle them from the grassroots level, understanding that they can only grow and they can only be sustained if we fix the foundation right. Otherwise, we'll just keep compiling problems and we will have an entire demography that's completely blocked out of benefiting from these things, which will eventually come back to bite us at the end of the day.